Let me take a sip real quick because I need to like prepare myself to talk about it. I think I'm like getting to the point of being tired where my thoughts aren't making sense. Hello and welcome back to my channel. If I'm a new face to you, my name is Lauren, aka Lauren Page Reads on Instagram and TikTok. And today I am doing my February reading wrap up. So we are going to talk about my stats. We are going to talk about the books I read, my ratings of them, and if you are going to like them or not. So go ahead, get a blanket. Let me pull up my blanket. We're going to get nice and cozy. Get yourself a nice little beverage. I don't care if it's coffee, hot or iced. Tonight I will be having a little glass of wine because it is 7:30 my time and I just got home from a really crazy work event. So I will be having a little glass of wine. We will see how this recording goes because I also did not have time to prep for this video like I normally do for my reading wrap-ups. Just go ahead, get cozy, get comfy, and let's have a chit chat about my February reading habits. A nice little glass. So what is this? This is the Cloud Break Unoaked Chardonnay from California. I don't know where my boss got this, but we opened this bottle. Nobody else wanted to take it home, so I took it home. Cheers. That is a bad Chardonnay. Okay, well first let's see how many pages I read in February. It looks like I read just over 2,100 pages, which means in February I read 40% of my total pages for the month, which makes perfect sense because it was a little bit shorter than January. For genre spread, I really don't know what it is, but I will have it up on the screen. I'm sure it's quite interesting. And then I believe, let's see, I read 5 Kindle books, 2 hardback books, and 1 audiobook. So there we go. 3 romance, 2 thrillers, 3 mysteries, and 1 romantasy book. So let's get into my impressions on all of the books. The first book of February is A Love Most Fatal by Kath Richards, and I rated this one a solid 4 stars. Now, I really liked this one because it's a mafia romance, but the roles are reversed than normal, okay? It is kind of like a mafia rom-com. Now, she is the boss and he is a middle school math teacher to her nephew. So she is running this like mob boss ring of like illegal weapons trading in Boston and also a construction company. So, you know, whatever. But he kind of gets wrapped up in this whole ongoing thing, and overall it was just a really enjoyable book to kind of kickstart February and the whole Valentine's Day vibe with, and it was absolutely adorable. There was a little bit of spicy content. I would put it at like a 1.5 to 2 on my scale, but it was very easy to like flip through the pages. I read it on Kindle Unlimited. Oh, and as a quick note, if you are curious about any of the books that I mention throughout this video, there will be a link in the description titled Get the Books, and you can go to that link, and I do earn a little bit of commission off that, so thank you if you end up purchasing a book through those links. So I'll have one to Amazon and then individual links to Barnes & Noble, so you can take your pick. And thank you for supporting a small content creator. The second book that I read in February was Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros, and I rated this one another solid 4 stars. Now, out of the 3 books that are published in the Empyrean series, Onyx Storm has been my favorite so far, and that is probably because it is more heavy on the fantasy versus the romance. The romance has been established in the first 2 books. We know they can get hot and heavy. We know that they like each other, you know, and that they're each other's person. In this one, we get more world building, more plot, more intrigue, that type of stuff. And so I think that's really why I enjoyed Onyx Storm overall. I'm not going to give any spoilers or anything like that, but I will give a hot take on one of the characters. Well, one, Riddick cannot die in this series. If he does, we will all riot. I know that much. But also, Dane is really likable in this series. Like, in this book specifically, I liked Dane. He was a good guy. He did the right thing when he needed to. Also, if you are thinking about reading Onyx Storm, and you haven't read the other 2 books in a while, I'm gonna highly suggest that you just read those books either for the first time or again, just so that they're fresh in your mind, and you're not trying to be like, hold on, who's Mira, like who's Rhiannon, like, you know, just so that you have, it made it a lot easier for me. And I listened to Fourth Wing and Iron Flame on audiobook, and they were both really good. So if you need like a good mix of the two, that's a really good option. The third book that I read in February was Murder in the Drawing Room by CJ Archer, and I rated this one 3.75 stars. Now this is the third book in the Cleopatra Fox series. This one was shorter than the first one and shorter than the 9th one that I read first technically. But overall, it was really good. The plot was really interesting. There were moments of intrigue for me, and Cleopatra and, well, Cleo and Harry still have like their friendship, like whole vibe going on. It's really cute, and I did not solve the murder before we got to that in the book. It was really awesome. Also, I did a little bit of immersive reading on Spotify with this book, reading it on my Kindle and listening to the audiobook for the last hour and a half. And yes, I could have finished the book faster, but I wanted to kind of like force myself to finish the book, if that makes sense. And so the listening to the audiobook while reading it was a great choice for me. It was my first time kind of ever doing an immersive read, and I will say I want to do an actual immersive read in the future, probably with this series, because it was really fun and enjoyable to have that come to life. But overall, I'm still really loving this series, and you'll see me read another book from it later in this video. The fourth book I read in February was The Third Wife by Lisa Jewell, and I rated this one 2.5 stars. I love Lisa Jewell. I did not like this book. Let me take a sip real quick because I need to like prepare myself to talk about it. I listened to it on audiobook, and at first I thought like we see what happens at the very beginning. And I thought there would be some more like plot twists or crazy elements, but the narrator, Adrian was his name, he's really just a jerk. That's literally all it is. He is a big jerk, and he is really selfish, and I think he's a little bit of a narcissist. And even by the end of the book, he hadn't grown, even when he realized he's a jerk and only thinks about himself in relationships. Even in like the end of the book, the resolution was he was still doing that, but trying to get his way. So it was a very weird book. Unfortunately, his third wife was like, what, 15 to 18 years younger to him in age, which, whatever, that's your own thing, you know. But it was just really sad. It was just really sad, and there was no growth. The characters were fine. I really liked the dynamics of the oldest son and the oldest daughter, and how we got to see them and how all of his children interacted, because he had 5 with 2 wives. But that was really nice. But also he just like kept starting these new families thinking they would fulfill him, and when they wouldn't, he would go get a new wife, like cheat on his current wife and then eventually end up marrying the girl that he cheated on her with. All around, Adrian isn't a good guy, and by the end of the book he didn't grow, and that was like really frustrating. So I would say it's more of a domestic thriller, but it wasn't even really that. Like, it was just boring. I thought there would be some crazy plot twist, but there wasn't. I was really disappointed. The fifth book that I read in February was Murder at the Dressmaker Salon by CJ Archer, and I rated this one 4 stars, and I read it on my Kindle. Now, this one is Cleopatra Fox once again. This is book number 4 in her series, and this was probably my favorite book of the series thus far, just because of the intrigue, the plot twist, the like reveals that were happening, and you got to feel London at that time a little bit more than you had in the past, and you also saw the dynamics between Harry and Cleo a little bit more. And guys, they kissed right before the end of the book. Love it. And it's a good series. If you haven't tried this series out yet, please go read this series, the Cleopatra Fox mystery series. It is so cute. It is so wholesome. Weird to say that like murder mysteries are wholesome, but like, you aren't judging me, are you, book bestie? I hope you're not. Okay. Anyways, that was book number 5. And book number 6 of February was Batten Down the Belfry by Diane Kelly, and I rated this one 4 stars. This is book number 3 or 4 in the, hold on, no, I think it's book number 4 in the House Flipper mystery series. So once again, we are back in Nashville. We are this time not flipping apartments, motels, houses, anything like that. We are flipping a church to be made into a music venue, which, like, how fun. So not only is Whitney like doing the construction thing and being like a real estate badass, she is also being a corporate boss queen, and she is trying to make her investments and make her bag, which, like, I love that for her. Also, her and Detective Colin are dating, and so in this fourth book you get to see them dating and like being sweet together and like respecting each other's like work boundaries. I started this reading the book on TikTok live one time, and the guy that I thought would be unalived was not, but then later in the book he is, because he was just so annoying. So it was kind of like sweet justice at that point. But it was just a really sad situation for like the person who initially got unalived. And also the plot was like a little bit confusing. I think there was research done on like how this crime does happen, but overall it was a vibe. I was there for it. I was there for like the palery of it all and just like vibing in Nashville with our gang. So Sawdust once again discovered the body, so the cat needs to be put in therapy ASAP. Also, Whitney was a little bit more traumatized this time. Like, I think this one was the most traumatizing for her out of the four, because at the end of each of these books, you know, our heroine, our main character, they have to get into a sticky situation where their like life is at risk. And this one probably was the scariest to date. So I'm really excited to continue reading the series and finish it off, because April 1st, the seventh or eighth book in the series is released, and it's called The Dead Post Society. And I was granted to be an ARC reader for that book. So I'm really excited to continue reading and read that book and let you guys know like my final thoughts on the whole series to date. So I don't think it's the last book, but what do I know? I know I'm the last person to know book news. So yeah, if that was book number 6, then book number 7 of February was The Snowbirds by Christine Clancy, and I rated this one 3.5 stars. And I would first like to say thank you to St. Martin's Press for allowing me to be an ARC reader and for gifting me a copy of the book for me to read. It was such a fun book. If you look at this cover is such a vibe. And it's essentially about snowbirds for the first time who live in, Madison, Wisconsin. And they travel down to Palm Springs for the winter so that she can avoid the snow. And their relationship is in crisis. They've never tied the knot, but they've been together for like 25 years, something like that. After kind of an accidental pregnancy while they were dating, and because of like her alimony payments and like his situation, they never like lived that full life together, but they were together. Does that make sense? Anyways, Grant goes missing. Husband goes missing hiking on New Year's Day, and we don't know if it's on purpose. We don't know if he ran away on purpose because, you know, he's having certain feelings. We don't know if he ran away with another woman. We don't know if our main girlie unalived him. So we are unraveling real-time events and then also going into the past and unraveling those events and how they are affecting present day, which is so good. And I gotta say, I put this book on pause when I had about 60 pages left, maybe 40 pages, because I did not want to know the ending, because I was so scared that he would be unalived and she would be responsible and it would not be a happy ending. But let me reassure you, book bestie, that it does have a happy ending. That is all the spoiler I'm going to give you, because ultimately it is a romance book, and it talks about how, you know, over time you and your partner change, but that's beautiful to change together and still choose to be together. So that's all I'm going to say on that book. Really loved it though. I didn't want it to end. Okay, now on to the 8th book of February, which was The Crash by the Queen, Frida McFadden. And I rated this one 4 stars. This book is like up there with me. I think this might now be my 2nd or 3rd favorite Frida McFadden book, because it is literally worst nightmare material. I wasn't too horribly annoyed at the narrator, because I kind of eventually just started picturing her like telling me at a coffee shop or a bar being like, girl, I had the craziest experience while I was pregnant. I'm like, girl, what? That's how I started trying to interpret the narrator, because her narrators are slightly annoying. I think I've talked about this in the last monthly wrap up for January where I was like, it was like nails in my ears, but I did listen to this one. Anyways, our main character, cannot remember her name. She is 8 months pregnant. She was SA'd, R-worded, and she ended up pregnant. She was drugged. Now she is trying to be bribed into money. She declines the money, you know, because she doesn't want to stay silent. She wants to process this. And she is driving to visit her brother, who is in somewhere, New York, somewhere, at a ski lodge because he's a ski instructor. And she's driving up to see him and she gets into a crash. This guy, this big burly mountain man guy, rescues her and brings her home in the middle of this blizzard. And his wife happens to be a nurse, but she is a nurse who has struggled with infertility for 10 years. So bringing home a very pregnant woman might not have been the best course of action. I will say this one had a lot of twists and turns. I did not know how it was going to turn out. I'm very, like, I was texting my friend Ashton while I was listening to it and being like, oh my gosh, girl, oh my gosh, and like theories and stuff. So that's how you know it was a really good book. And I know Frida McFadden has another book coming out. I don't know how she's able to like churn them out so quickly, but she's like feeding into my audiobooks each time she drops a new book, so I'm totally fine with it. But overall, I really enjoyed the book. I will say, if you are pregnant or you have children, I don't know if this audiobook is for you. So maybe have some discretion before going into it. Like, does that make sense? I hope that makes sense because I'm saying it with love and caring for you. Literally worst nightmare stuff, like being trapped in somebody's basement, helpless, and they're being sketched. That was real creepy. Okay, and the 9th and final book that I read in February, before I give my reading blanket reveal to you, I guess you've been able to see it this whole time, but whatever. The 9th and final book I read in February was The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. I rated this one 4.5 stars. I read a novel love story back in January, and let me tell you, The 7-Year Slip was so good. I got it on my Kindle loan, even though I own a copy of the book, and I read it while I was in Cabo on vacation last week. Let me just tell you, her books hit on a different level. Like, our main girlie's apartment, Clementine, her late aunt's apartment, sometimes slips back in time 7 years when you need to meet somebody that you need to meet, which, how cool. So over a summer, Clementine kind of regularly, unintentionally goes back in time 7 years to meet this up and coming chef who her aunt has leased or subletted her apartment out to in the summer while she's traveling in Europe with Clementine. Do you follow this thread? I think everybody and their mom knows about this book by now, and I'm like last on the train, but let me tell you just in case. But she finds this guy, oh, what was his name? It wasn't Iro. Iwan. It was Iwan. And she finds him in present day, and he's become a super successful chef. And the thing is, he knows that she's like the current day self that he knew 7 years ago. But even this current day self going through this experience is changing immensely. And you get to watch them fall in love at like multiple points in each other's stories and choose to be in love and have a relationship together. And I don't know, it was absolutely beautiful. I want to go back and reread it because like it didn't necessarily break my heart, but it broke my heart for the time being, knowing that he would have to wait 7 years to see her. But then they kind of met up at random points and they didn't realize it, and it was just so sweet. Also, there was like a lot of unresolved grief on Clementine's end with her aunt passing, and they don't know if it was an accidental overdose or an intentional overdose because her aunt was only in like her early 60s, so still quite young. It was just really sad. So she didn't know that her aunt was dealing possibly with depression, all these negative things, when she only saw the good and the light and the happiness and the joy from her aunt. The book just deals with a lot. Okay, like that's all I'm gonna say. It was such a good book. It was so freaking good. I think I'm like getting to the point of being tired where my thoughts aren't making sense. Anyways, do you guys want to see my reading blanket? Let me reveal it to you. Okay, I'm gonna try to hold it up in the correct way. I did do some like adjusting from the previous one, but here it is. Woo! So I did move a January square down to the second row, so I have the 10 squares. It is about the size of my arms, and so now we have a full second row. So now in March, it is my goal to read 10 books so I can have a full row. You see how that works out? I read 11 books in January and I read 9 in February, and I'm still on track. Yay! Reading 10 books a month is actually quite a lot. But you can see, like, I've shown you kind of as I've gone along, and I've done my very best that I could with the colors, because I still haven't felt like I need to go out and intentionally buy colors yet, even if some of the squares are starting to look repetitive. But if you look closely, they all have like different vibes for the most part, which is so special. And I also wrapped Franklin up in this when I got done stitching it all together, which was so cute. And I'm like, I can now kind of start to envision this actually being a blanket. And I also think I'm gonna get a backing for it. I might do a flannel backing, and I will quilt or like sew down that where I have the seams to make the back and essentially the top stick together. That is the update. This is the last book, and then these are the first books. So it is quite beautiful. It's getting quite large, but now it folds up quite nicely into this cute little, it looks a little bit blanket-like, which I'm so excited about. Overall, February was a great reading month. I might not have read as many romances as I wanted to read or give like all of the Valentine's Day vibes I wanted to, but overall, I'm really happy. I only had one dud book, and I think that was like the only dud book I've had this year so far. So we are counting that as a win, guys. We are counting that as a win. Anyways, okay guys, if you enjoyed watching this video, consider giving it a like. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so that you never miss out on a video that I post, because I post a new bookish video for you to enjoy each and every Friday. If you have read any of the books I mentioned throughout this video, let me know your thoughts on them. And if there are any books I should add to my March TBR, let me know in the comments below, and you might just see the book that you mentioned in the March reading wrap up. Now, with that, book besties, happy reading. Bye.